Well, there's been talk about it all week. Now the full GOP memo alleging bias in the investigation of the Trump campaign is out, and there is a lot to unpack. So let's bring in Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge to break it down for us. Catherine.
Well, thanks, Dana. This newly declassified four-page memo, first reported by Fox News, makes the case that the secret National Security Court was kept in the dark by the FBI and Justice Department when they sought and secured a surveillance warrant for Trump campaign aide Carter Page. The memo says the court was never told the former British spy, who was paid by Democrats to put together the Trump dossier, that's Christopher Steele, had a personal animus towards the presidential nominee. Quote, in September 2016, Christopher Steele admitted to Justice Department official Bruce Orr his feelings against then-candidate Trump when Steele said he, quote, was desperate that Donald Trump not get elected and was passionate about him not being president. Orr was recently demoted over his contacts with Steele, and Glenn Simpson, whose opposition research firm, Fusion GPS, directed the Trump project. Bank records obtained by the same House committee show Orr's wife, Nellie, worked for Fusion GPS and began investigating Trump as early as May 2016. Republican investigators said the court was also never told about the dossier's political roots. Quote, neither the initial FISA application in October 2016 nor any of the renewals disclose or reference the role of the DNC, Clinton campaign, or any party campaign in funding Steele's efforts, even though the political origins of the Steele dossier were then known to senior DOJ and FBI officials. According to the memo, Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe, who was removed earlier this week, testified before the committee in December of last year that they would never have gone for a surveillance warrant if it had not been for the dossier. Dana.
Hey, Catherine, I have one question. So Speaker Ryan and the White House both said today that they had encouraged the Democrats to try to release their version of the memo. Do you have any idea what the timing of that might be?
Well, they've got to go through a number of processes in terms of classification. I think one of the big distinctions with the Republican staff memo is that it was deliberately drafted with the idea that it could be made public quickly. So they eliminated a lot of national security information, sources, methods, anything that was sensitive. The Democrats' version is 10 pages long, but it would also be subject to an interagency review. So it could take some days.
All right. Thank you, Catherine. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
President Trump shared his thoughts on the memo from the Oval Office today, moments before it was released.
I think it's terrible. You want to know the truth? I think it's a disgrace. What's going on in this country, I think it's a disgrace. What's going on, a lot of people should be ashamed of themselves, and much worse than that. Let's see what happens. But a lot of people should be ashamed. Thank you very much.
All right, we'll take it around the table, starting with Kimberly, who knows a lot about the FBI process and getting a FISA warrant and all that goes into it. Your thoughts?
Yeah, there was a few things that jumped out to me right away that are sort of like the exclamation points. And what I thought was interesting is that they excluded the political origins on the Steele dossier that were known to senior DOJ and FBI officials, but they were left out and excluded from the FISA applications. And I feel that that in and of itself is sort of glaring because it shows the motive, the intention, an intent to deceive, some duplicity on their part, which I think is totally inappropriate in terms of what they were supposed to be transparent about and put forward and proffer in terms of supporting documentation and what they knew. And if they knew about the political origins of it, that in and of itself should have cast doubt on the credibility. They purposefully withheld that information. So to me, that is a significant glaring factor. And probably it's like number one on my list, just about.
Juan, another part of it was that that the media helps play a role in this in a way. So apparently Steele leaked information about the dossier to Yahoo News. Yahoo News writes the article, and then apparently the FBI, when applying for the warrant, says that there was corroboration because it was in Yahoo News, but they didn't make it explicit that they had actually used their own, Steele used his own information to get it into the Yahoo News. What do you think of that?
Well, I don't think much of it. I mean, to me, it doesn't matter. Clearly, the FBI cut off contact with Steele once they suspected that he was leaking information. But this thing is so comical to me. I said to Greg in the green room, Greg, you're a seer, because this is zero. This is comical. I was thinking there's going to be something here, some element here that's really going to cause people to take a second look. Instead, you have a situation where Kimberly is talking about Steele having some political dislike for President Trump. That doesn't speak to the information in the memo. And secondly, guess what? It didn't even prompt the investigation. The investigation had started before with the news that the FBI had uncovered of George Papadopoulos' connection with Russian agents who were trying to win him over.
And that is included in the memo.
And so I don't understand. And then secondly, don't forget that Carter Page had been under FBI scrutiny since 2013, Dana. So, again, this is not even pertinent. I mean, I don't get it. This, you know, I'm struck by the number of Republicans who have said today, I'm thinking of John McCain, who said basically that Nunes and the Republicans here are doing Putin's work. John Kasich said it was an attack on American institutions and erodes our democracy. John Thune said, we got to get past this. This is not good. I don't get it. And so President Trump says, ashamed. He should be ashamed of using Nunes and the Congress in this way.
Well, Jesse, I'm assuming you think differently. Juan says he thinks it's comical, but you're not laughing.
I'm laughing at Juan's thesis. It's a kill shot. Juan knows it, so he's deflecting.
It's a kill shot.
It's an absolute
kill shot.
Wow. And the reason Juan can't admit it is because to admit it, he would have to admit that he's been wrong for a year on the whole hoax.
I get it.
They were caught red-handed in a conspiracy that the left accused the Republicans of being involved in. It involved the media. It involved Hillary operatives in foreign countries. It involved the Department of Justice and the FBI under Barack Obama. You say the FBI cut off contact with Steele after they caught him leaking. Then he backdoored through the Justice Department. And the person whose wife was working for FISA GPS ended up being demoted, Bruce Orr. You say this didn't prompt the investigation. You know what did prompt the investigation?
Tell me.
Strzok. The Trump-hating, corrupt FBI official. So what's worse? You're also saying...
Excuse me, wait a second.
Yeah.
Strzok responded when Papadopoulos was found to being recruited by the Russians. And then he was subsequently taken off the investigation.
Okay, so he hates Trump. The fix was in. He cooked up the Hillary deal and then opens up an investigation on Papadopoulos off of some conversation over in London. That's not a big deal, Juan? To me, it is. You know what else is really interesting? No, listen, let me finish.
Someone like you is so desperate.
This is not desperation.
Oh, my God.
This is not desperation at all. Read the memo. I don't even think Juan's actually read the memo.
You guys, we got to get Greg in here.
Let's say, I want to say one thing that Kimberly said. Juan, if James Comey is signing off on 3 FISA application warrants, and he knows the application was based on a document, the dossier that was paid for by Hillary and was unverified and salacious, why would he do that?
Well, he's not. First of all, it wasn't based on. There's no indication this was the total basis for it. Everybody
Juan,
says.
they said if the dossier hadn't been there, they never would have gotten the application.
Again.
McCabe said it under oath.
No.
Juan.
Well, actually, did you not see the thing that Brett Baer sent earlier that said that the Democrats are disputing that McCabe didn't say those exact words? And so who knows? Maybe when their memo comes out, Greg, we'll have more information on that.
Well, you know, the thing is, since this whole thing started, this nerd Super Bowl, I said that I didn't think there was there was going to be a big deal. So I don't have a dog in this hunt. I'm not interested in being proven correct that nothing happened here. But when somebody says there's nothing to see here, that means there's something to see here, because there's always something. And it's clear when you look at this that there is something. And when you step back and you see this mosaic of malfeasance, when you see things like the tarmac and you see things like the servers and the text messages and the Comey statement, and then you see the political roots of this dossier and why the political roots of the dossier were covered up. Well, who would do that? Why would they do that? It stinks of Clinton. This is all about Hillary Clinton. I mean, this is to help her get elected. We spent the last year and a half hearing about collusion between Donald Trump and the Russians. And all along, the real collusion was committed by the perpetrators of that narrative. So if you look at the media, the Democrats and their allies in government, those are the people that have been colluding. They've been colluding about a narrative, and they were colluding before the election. If you think that's not huge, then you're probably a hack.
I'm a hack then. I'm a big hack. Because I remember hearing people, Fox and in the conservative echo chamber say, bigger than Watergate.
I didn't say that.
It's going to make Watergate look like someone was stealing
I didn't think it was going to be much of anything.
It is not. That's what it is.
But I'm admitting I'm wrong.
Today, at this table, you guys have not raised one thing that would say to this audience,
I do.
Boy, this is terrible.
And I'll raise it right now. Hillary paid for the surveillance of Donald Trump's campaign.
So what? So if somebody breaks into your house,
Jesse, false information to spy on Trump.
What
they knew it was false. The dossier.
The dossier is not false. Why do you say that?
The dossier was false because McCabe said it was false and Comey said it was false.
No.
But Comey said, quote, ready? Salacious and unverified.
Yes.
He briefed the president.
So
He
it's
said,
not
that's
salacious and unverified.
So in other words,
they
the
knew it was
FBI
paid for by Hillary,
So
and
Can I
they
ask Kimberly
still
something?
use it
What
to
difference
justify
does it make who pays for
What
it?
difference does it make? Okay, Mrs. Clinton.
What?
You just quoted the secretary from Benghazi.
I just said, what difference does it make who pays for it if the information
It's
is
political
substantial?
BS.
We're gonna make a
I don't
You
commercial.
don't take a
Okay.
judge
What
BS.
if the FBI gets information from a guy who's like some like a kind of a seedy character, Kimberly,
right.
but it turns out to be
Every
good
day.
information, then you still
But we
go
know
with
it wasn't
but
good
you wanna-
information,
It was
Dana,
good information.
because
You
it's
have to
never been
verify it.
verified.
I'm not saying
yes.
that. I'm not saying the dossier is real. I'm just saying that is what
Right.
Juan is saying.
Using the
The point is
dossier
it's
to
an
get
issue
a
of
warrant is like
veracity.
trying to buy beer with a library card. Sorry.
Well, have you tried that?
Yes.
That's
Can I ask you one thing, Kimberly,
question.
about the process? Because I am curious about this, and we don't know this from the memo. So if Carter Page is under a FISA warrant starting in 2013, and you have to go to the FISA court every 90 days in order to keep up that warrant. Like, we don't know if there was a lapse in the warrant between 2013 and 2016. But we don't know if this was a new warrant about Carter Page, right?
Yeah, so the problem is there's a whole chronology issue here as well in terms of when did they get it? Is this new? At what time? And it also goes to the larger issue, as Jesse was saying, of veracity in terms of the integral, content and the facts that are alleged there. So if you have a question about that, you would have to verify it to make sure that it was substantiated and there was some kind of indicia of proof or evidence to support any of this.
Can I ask you one other thing on this? On this legal point, which is because I want to give you one more chance to talk since these guys talked a lot. If you're a FISA judge and you were presented information that you think was based on faulty information, like how mad would you be, and what are the consequences of that?
Scale of 1 through 10, furious. Yeah, furious, because somebody could be held in contempt of court, lying to the court, proffering false information or false affidavits. I mean, this goes to the integrity of the whole judicial process, and saying that in good faith and belief that you have the information that you're relying on is truthful and should be relied on by an officer of the court in order to justify essentially a search or an intrusion.
And that's why I get back to that idea that I'm imagining if you are presenting to the judge, you don't say one of my pieces of evidence is an article from Yahoo News. I mean, that's actually what they're saying was one of the pieces. I don't know all the details here, and we'll find out if the Democrats are going to come out with their memo, and we'll have more of a full picture.